Good morning, kids. Today we're going to talk about a man named Gideon. The story of Gideon is found in the Old Testament, in the book of Judges, in chapters 6 and 7. Today we're going to talk about what happens in chapter 6. Before we talk about Gideon, we're going to talk about the people of Israel because that's where the story starts. God is not happy with the people of Israel. God is not happy with them at all because they have done things wrong. They are disobeying God. Yes, this is the Israelites. This is the people that God led out of Egypt. This is the people that God saved from Pharaoh. This is the people that God led across the Red Sea on dry ground. And now it's hundreds of years later, and they are being evil. They have forgotten the miracles. They are doing things wrong. They are disobeying God. And you know that when you disobey, there are consequences, right? If you don't obey your mom and dad, what happens? They punish you, right? You get in trouble. Well, that's what's happening to the people of Israel. They've disobeyed God, and now God is punishing them. There's consequences for their actions. They've done something wrong, so God doesn't bless them anymore. In fact, He gives them into the hands of the Midianite people. And the Midianite people were not their friends. They took or ruined all of the Israelite people's crops. They took all of their animals. In fact, it was so bad for the Israelite people that they hid in caves because they were scared of the Midianites. And after they had nothing left, they finally cried to God and said, God, help us. And here's the amazing thing. God heard their cry, like He always does, and He had a plan to save His people. The coolest thing about all this was God wasn't happy with the Israelite people, but He still listened, and He still listened to their prayers, and He still answered their prayers. And that's where Gideon comes into this story. He was threshing wheat. So he had his wheat, and he was taking it and separating the wheat from the stalks, and he was in a hidden place so the Midianite people couldn't see him, and he was doing that to prevent them from stealing the wheat when an angel of the Lord appeared to him. And the angel spoke to him and said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. And Gideon said, if the Lord is with us, why is all this bad stuff happening? Where are all the miracles our fathers told us about? And the Lord replied to Gideon, go with all your strength and save Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you to do it. And Gideon started making excuses. I can't save Israel. My people are the weakest. I'm the smallest. I'm the youngest in the family. I just can't do it, Lord. I'm not able to do it. And the Lord looked at him and said, Gideon, I will be with you, and you will defeat the Midianites because I am with you. And then Gideon asked for a sign. He said, okay, I want to be sure you're really God. I want to be sure that I'm talking to God. And I don't know about this. You've never talked to me before, and I just want to be sure it's yours. So give me a sign. So first, Gideon prepared an offering for God. He built an altar, and he put meat and unleavened bread on the rock. And guess what? Fire consumed the offering. From nowhere the fire came and consumed the meat and the bread. And the angel of the Lord disappeared. And then Gideon realized that that was the angel of God. That same night, the Lord told Gideon to take down the altar his father had built to a pretend god, Baal, and to cut down a pole called an Asherah pole, which people worshiped. Can you believe this? People prayed to a stick, and they prayed to a statue. I know, it's hard to believe, but they thought a stick and a statue could do things for them, and so they prayed to them. I don't think that stick and that statue ever answered their prayers, because guess what? It was a stick, and it was a statue, and they don't answer prayers. God answers prayers. And then then Gideon took 10 of his servants. And that's one of the reasons why God was so angry with them, because they were worshiping fake gods. And he's the only real and true God. And these people were praying to these things. And God was not happy about that. So Gideon took 10 of his servants that night, and he tore down the altars. And the people were mad at him. But they didn't do anything to him because they said, well, the, the god Baal will take care of him. The god Baal will punish him for tearing down their altars. But nothing happened. Why? Because a statue and a stick are not God. Only God is God. Okay? But still, Gideon wasn't convinced. He wanted another sign. So he said, God, I'm going to put a piece of wool from a sheep on the ground, and if it dews in the morning is on the fleece, and the fleece is wet, but the ground is all dry, I'll know that you'll help me save the Israelite people. And when he checked the wool the next morning, it was soaking wet, and the ground was dry, and Gideon asked God for one more sign. Oh no, another sign? But God gave it to him. This time Gideon said, okay, this time I want the fleece and the wool to be dry and the ground to be wet when I get up in the morning. And guess what? When he got up in the morning, the fleece was dry and the ground was wet. And then Gideon decided that it was God, and that God was going to help him to fight the Midianite people. He was going to help him save the Israelite people. So he gathered up an army, and he was feeling pretty good about that. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're not going to talk about the army or what happens with the army today. We're going to talk about that next week. Today we're going to talk about the signs that Gideon asked for. We're going to talk about the fact that God provided those signs and showed that he was the true God. We're going to talk about the fact that God answered the Israelite people's prayers, and he had a plan, and he was going to use that plan, and he was going to ask Gideon to help him do that plan to save the people. Next week we're going to see how Gideon does and what God asked Gideon to do, because it's even more amazing. God asked Gideon to perform a miracle for him. And God provides for him. And actually, God worked the miracle through Gideon. So, that's the end of our story today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you soon. We'll talk later. Bye-bye.